Yay. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to get, I'm just going to let everyone start entering. At the start of webinars, there's always like this period where I'm watching the participants go up, 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 up. It's like, I like to pretend that you're all in a, like a conference room and I'm watching the door come in. So get yourselves comfy. I wish I could offer you a drink, but get your own. All right. And we're just going to give everyone, like I normally just leave a few minutes just to allow everyone to enter. So in the meantime, just get yourselves comfortable. I've got a couple of suggestions on the screen if you want to grab pen and paper in case you want to take some notes. Now's a great time to switch off notifications, to tell your partner or mum or sister or dog to leave you alone for the next 45 minutes to an hour. Do whatever you need to do to make this time all about you, because that's really what it's all about. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. I'm going to have some water. All right, let's have a look. We've got a couple more people coming in, so let's just give them a chance. One of my favorite questions to ask at the start of like a coaching session, at the start of a webinar, a workshop, anything really, and I do this a lot for myself, is to really just check in and be like, all right, I've been racing around from, my job, or like maybe you just went out for a run or whatever it is. It's like, okay, I'm here now. What do I need to give myself permission for? Like, do I just need to give myself permission to pause, to slow down, to if you're someone who loves to ask questions, is it, permission to ask loads of questions? If you don't feel like it, is it like permission to just sit back and relax and enjoy the show? Like anything, like it's just a great starting question to get you into the space of, what you put in your diary for tonight. Okay, I can see a couple more participants coming in. So let me just, I'm going to give it another like 30 seconds or so. So make your final adjustments. Switch off those notifications. We've got some chats happening. Amazing. Okay, so Pam is operating here in the background. The beautiful A Small World ASW team in the background here, and she is on hand helping me out. I love it. I'm just going to start by saying welcome. I'm so happy to have you all here. It looks like we've got most participants here. Great. Okay, let's do it. Let's get into it, shall we? So welcome everyone to your webinar series tonight. If you haven't met me yet, I am Danielle Brooker and I'm so happy to be here with you all tonight. Now, it always feels a little bit strange because I'm talking to myself right now. I cannot see you, I cannot hear you, but yay, Eugenio is saying hi. I love interaction, so please make me feel like I'm not alone tonight. Now, it's not just about me though, it is very much about you. So I will be expecting a conversation tonight. Hey, Alan or Elaine, let me make sure I'm saying that right. I'm in London too. We had a lovely sunny day today. So yes, let me know where you are from. And I would love to hear actually, like, where's your energy at today? Let's just do a 3-point scale. That's easy. Are you at like a 3 is like bouncing off the walls, so energized, ready to go, or 1 like ready to go to sleep? Smack bang in the middle. Thanks, Alan. Maybe I should have given you a 4-point scale so we couldn't have any fence sitters. Great. We got some 3s. Excellent. I managed to catch a little bit of sun on my balcony this afternoon, so I'm at a 3 too. Miami, oh my goodness, I would love to be swimming in your ocean right now. Mexico, we've got a full range. 1, no worries, Nick, I'm going to get that up for you by the end of tonight, I promise. Cooking but listening, not a problem at all, Craig. Let us know what you're cooking, and I'll try not to get too hungry in the meantime. So I love this. Thank you so much for sharing, because I really want to keep this energy up and the conversation going throughout the webinar. So here's just a couple of things you need to know. First of all, as far as I'm concerned, this session is all about you. You are highly likely very busy, have a lot going on in your life right now, and you have crafted a whole hour in your diary. So I think that's pretty cool. And I want to make this session as valuable as possible for you. So how can we do that? One way we're going to do that is I'm probably going to jam pack the first hour and do a lot of talking. And I really want you to capture any questions that you have and pop them over in the Q&A box. Now, if you've attended a webinar before, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's, you know, you've got some control options there. You've got the Q&A and you've got the chat box. So if you have a specific question that comes up, please pop it in there. I will be leaving tons of time at the end for a lot of Q&A. So I want that chat box, you know, that Q&A box, I must say, to be full. Every now and then I am going to pause throughout this first half an hour just to check in, see how we're doing. I'm going to check the conversation box, the chat box. So keep the conversation going there as well. I really want you to create the environment tonight for yourselves that this is a judgment-free zone. So I really want you to think, like, whatever like processing you're doing as I'm sharing, whatever questions you have coming up, really just think, look, there's no right or wrong. I've got access to Danielle for this hour. Like, just allow those insights to come up, whether it's in the chat, whether it's in the Q&A. I really encourage you to step into that mode. And you'll be surprised at how much more effective your learning and intaking in will be tonight. I want this to be not just about knowledge, right? Knowledge is beautiful. Knowledge is great. I want this to be about wisdom. Wisdom is an integration. Wisdom is the thing that's going to move you forward. And I'm guessing if you're joining a webinar about should I or shouldn't I quit my job, you're feeling a little bit stuck. Now, the other thing to know about me, I do talk a little bit fast. So I'm very conscious of that. Mostly it's because I'm just excited to get a lot of the value in for you tonight. If you need me to slow down, just remind me, just like flag me, put a little emoji in there, tell me to slow down, and I will. However, I want you to know that you do get access to the recording. So please don't stress. Like, if you miss something and you need some clarification, ask a question. And if you're also just like thinking like, okay, well, I'll just, you know, watch it again, you're going to have access to it. Great news is the brain loves repetition. So you can just like, you're only going to take in tonight what you're ready to take in. And I want to invite you, how can I put this? I want to invite you to maybe feel a little bit uncomfortable tonight. Like, in the sense of like, maybe you're not going to understand everything. Maybe you're going to feel a little bit confused. Maybe you're going to be like, oh, I just wanted Danielle to give me all of the answers, and why, like, I'm not feeling like I'm moving forward. I just want to say that any of those feelings tonight are totally welcome. And in my experience, actually, when you're feeling a little bit of that discomfort or restlessness bubble up, particularly when you're in a new learning environment, then that's actually you being on your growth edge. That gives me a signal that you're going beyond a place that you've ever been before. And I'm guessing if you're coming here to answer the question that you're stuck on, should I, shouldn't I quit my job, then you're gonna want to move beyond, okay? Because that feeling of going round and round in circles, it's exhausting, and I get it, okay? What else do you need to know? One more thing I really want you to know is, let's have a look. I think I've got it up here on the slides. This link, you can go ahead and grab it right now. Pam's going to pop it in the chat box later on, right at the end. So don't stress if you're going to miss it. This link is going to give you access to a free guide. It is a full comprehensive guide talking about everything we're talking about tonight. And it's got some really cool action steps in there and questions you can ask yourself. So this is my way of saying, do not panic about taking a gazillion notes. Do not stress if you feel like I'm moving too fast, or you're wanting to like do immediately. You can take this away with you afterwards, okay? You can go and download it over on my website. How's that sound to everyone? Can I have some thumbs up or some yes, yes, yes if you are following and you are ready to go? I've got my dribbly water bottle tonight, so you'll have to excuse me. For some reason, I always dribble with this one. If I get a little bit of dribbles, let me know. Great, we've got lots of yeses. Joanna, Jen, Susanna, hooray. Okay, are we ready? Let me stop sharing so that I can fully focus on the wonderful chat box that is going on. Okie dokie, amazing. So I don't have any further slides. I'm just going to share with you tonight a little bit more on this topic, and I am going to talk you through 3 specific steps that you can take to get some relief from this questioning. So I'm going to have a guess that what has been going on for you right now, and let me know if this is, if I'm right or wrong, is that maybe you are someone who has been pretty stressed, very busy at work, there's been a lot of pressure, and maybe this feeling has been around in the last few months, definitely, but maybe it's been irking you for a lot longer. And you find yourself going round and round in circles. You find yourself going to this question of like, oh, shouldn't I quit? But every time you ask yourself that question, what tends to happen is something comes up. Like a project comes up, a deadline comes up, and you're like, oh no, I'll just go figure that out, then I'll deal with that question. Or, you know, you got to take care of the kids at childcare, or you're deciding whether or not you want to buy a house with your partner, and you're like, okay, well, when we've got the house, then I'll deal with the job thing. Does that sound familiar to anyone? Just give me a yes or a thumbs up if that feels like something that has been familiar to you. And if that's where you've been at, I'm going to take another guess that these last few months, particularly in the current environment, where you've highly likely been doing a lot more working from home, or highly likely that your routine, your structure, your regular way of doing things has changed. Yes. So with any kind of change or transition that goes on, it kind of shakes things up a little bit. I always think of it as like, maybe this isn't the best metaphor, but like, you know, like when you shake out a rug, like it might look pretty clean, but then you shake it out and you get even more of the dust out. It unsettles things. If you've been at home and your routine's a little bit different, that question has probably been like surfacing more, and like maybe banging a little bit louder, and maybe like irritating you more or stressing you out more. Is that right? Has anyone experienced that, like this kind of period, of change over the last few months has really intensified that question, and you're starting to get really annoyed? Yeah. Can I get a little bit of yes or no in the chat box? I just want to gauge where everyone is at. And if you're experiencing something different, let me know as well. Yes. Thank you, Eugenio. That's brilliant. I love it. So likely what's happened, so this was definitely me. I got myself into this position where I was in a great career, a great job that I was doing great at, but I didn't feel great. And what started to happen is things that I thought were totally unrelated, if I'm honest. Like I was getting migraines, and I was, then I was getting digestive issues. Then I was just feeling super stressed and busy all the time. I was like, oh no, it's just because of this project. It's just because we're short-staffed. It's just because of this. And actually what was happening for me is the question kept coming up, was less about should I quit, but more about what should I do to fix this feeling? What should I do next? Do I need a new job? Do I need a new team? Is it because I need a promotion? Is it because maybe I need to go do my master's degree? Maybe that'll fix things. And what started to happen is anytime I would think of any of those questions, I would get so stuck up here and go round and round and round that it was easier to just say, I'll just go and finish that thing at work, right? Or I'll just go and have a glass of wine after work, or I'll just, there's always an I'll just, yeah? And time again, I have clients that come to me who come to me and they say, okay, I'm thinking about getting some coaching because I'm thinking about making a change. There's this thing I've really been wanting to do. I really want to go and be a designer, but at the moment, I work in the banking industry, and that just feels completely like two different worlds. But I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'll make enough money. What if I do it and I can't pay my bills? There's all of these questions that come up, and the questions start to drive them crazy. Has anyone experienced that? Where like you're just asking yourself questions and questions and questions, and you're like, oh, maybe I should change. Why should I change? Like, am I being grateful enough? But I've got a really good job. I worked really hard to get myself here. I studied really hard. I'm earning a great salary. Why would I change now? What am I going to do about my partner? What are they going to think of me? And you just escalated and escalated. Okay. What can be so frustrating about that is that the questions lead to more questions and lead to more overwhelm and stress. So you're getting your body into that like frustrated mode, and it just feels like you're going crazy. Yeah. Who's ever experienced that feeling? Yeah. You know what would be really cool is if you share with me, like, where do you feel like you're at? Let's see if we can do a scale. Let's do 3 numbers. One, you're tuning into this webinar right now because you're just curious. You're just curious. You're like, oh, wonder what she's going to say about this job thing. Like, oh, maybe that's me, maybe that's not. Two, you're pretty stressed and busy and this question has been popping up a lot. Or three, you are like desperate, at your wit's end, absolutely know you need to make a change, but haven't been able to because you're totally stuck. Okay, let's get some numbers coming in. And you're a fence sitter, 1, 2, and 3. I love it. Emily 2, 3. Okay, cool. We've got a nice mix in here. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, cool. I mean, I just came up with those numbers off the top of my head, those rankings. So if you want to give more detail, feel free. So I love this. I just want to say wherever you are at is totally okay. Okay. And wherever you are at, you're going to take something away from the session tonight. I have a really unconventional approach to this, okay? What tends to happen, or has tended to happen for me in any of those moments where I've been really stuck like that, I drive myself crazy. And what I tend to do is I go and do a bunch of research. Who's a researcher? Who's like, let me ask Google, are there any blogs on this? Shouldn't I quit my job? Like, tell me, what are you Googling when you get into this state? Yeah. And particularly when it comes to this question of job, like you're really unhappy, you're really stressed, you're busy, and you think like, maybe it is the job. Is it me? Is it the job? And you start to Google, and the answers you likely get are things like, well, how to tell if this job is right for me? Do I have the right skills? Do I have the right qualities? Or you start to Google, should I quit my job? And you come up with all of these answers that are things that are telling you how you already feel. So that article's telling you, okay, well, you shouldn't be so stressed, and you should really work for an organization that takes care of your well-being and offers yoga classes or whatever. Like, and you get to the point where you're like, yeah, but I know that already. I want something to give me the answer. I want something that's going to move me forward beyond this feeling of absolute like overwhelm or absolute like for me, it was this anxious, like knot in my chest. Yeah. My approach is really unconventional. I am not going to tell you what you already know. Okay. I'm not going to tell you, I don't have a 3-point plan for checking that your skills match this new career. I'm not going to tell you the perfect amount of money to have in your bank account before changing careers. I'm not here to weave the different careers together. Like, I'm not here for that. Okay. Because in my experience, all of that questioning has landed you exactly where you are right now, which is stuck and confused. Yeah. And when we stay in stuck and confused mode, it's exhausting. Indecision is an energy drain. Okay. In my experience, like when we're locked in indecision, it's just like the energy is getting drained and drained and drained. Okay. I was attending a beautiful webinar by like one of my favorite mentors. Her name's Laura Belgray, and I love her because she talks a lot about storytelling, and she's really great at storytelling. And she used this acronym. She said, talking about noticing when you are doing PDR. I was like, what's that? And she said, it's procrastination disguised as research, right? I was like, oh my God, I know that feeling. But I have a new take on it. And my take is, what if it is PDB, B for banana, PDB, procrastination disguised as busyness, right? So I'm going to have a guess that if you're tuning into tonight's webinar, you are also someone who is busy. Am I right? Give me a yes or no. You are someone who takes on a lot. You have a lot of things going on in your life, whether that's in your career environment, in your personal environment. We're getting a lot of yeses. Thank you. Yes. Right. And so I'm here to talk about like untangling that, because a lot of the time I talk about busy as being the strategy that we run to kind of hide all those feelings of stress and discomfort and like the questions. Like if we don't have answers to the questions, we got some big yeses. Thank you, Pinto. I get you. I feel you. Yes. Always researching, because if I can research, I can take away some of those feelings, right? So just so you know, I did do a webinar all about freedom from busy with ASW. And I believe, Pam, correct me if I'm wrong, that members can get access to the recording? we can double check that for you. So if you want to know more about untangling the busy, you can go over and dive into that webinar. What I'm talking about tonight, though, is that with this particular question of should I or shouldn't I quit, if you've asked it to yourself at least once, then it's likely you're also running a PDB strategy. Yeah, you're asking the question, then instead of dealing with the question because it brings up confusion, you go and get busy doing something else, right? Researching or doing the deadlines or whatever was going on, yeah? So I'm here to tell you a different approach. It's pretty unconventional, and I'm going to say, look, you might feel uncomfortable tonight, or you might be like, oh, wasn't she going to give me some action plans? Oh, wasn't she just going to give me a clear-cut 10-step process and I could have this all resolved in a night? Sorry, that is not what we're going to do. However, what we are going to do is something different to what you have been doing. Because if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, guess what? You're going to get the same result. And the result is where you're at right now, which is no answers. Yeah. So what I'm going to teach you tonight with these 3 steps is a process that's going to give you the answers. It's going to move you forward. And to be honest, I'm really not that interested in whether you end up quitting your job or not. What I teach people, I work with a lot of really stressed out, always on women who tend to be in their 30s, and they reach this transition point where they're questioning like, oh, shouldn't I quit my job? I'm always so stressed. And what I take that question with them and we go on this journey. And I take them through a process to get to the point of, actually, regardless of what job you're in, you're living a fulfilled, happy, joyful life, right? That's what's most important. It doesn't really matter about the job in the end. So I want you to know tonight, like even if you were one of the ones who's like, oh, I'm just doing it, I'm curious. Even if that seed of curiosity is there tonight, I want you to know that this process is really a process you can use anytime that you're stuck in overthinking mode, over questioning, and you've essentially frozen yourself into inaction, okay? And specifically, if you're asking this question of should I or shouldn't I quit my job, I'm gonna guess you've been very stuck in analysis around it. You've been very stuck in your head. If you're stuck in busyness, you're stuck in your head because you're stuck in all of the to-do lists, yes? If you're stuck in should I or shouldn't I quit? What if I don't have enough money? Is this the right career for me? Is this the right time? What about, should I wait until COVID's over? Like, when's it gonna be over? Yeah? All of that is very much head-based activity, okay? And whilst our head is beautiful, our brain gives us so much, we spend too much time up here and we don't access the rest of our body. And we've got like this whole beautiful body, like below the head, right? If you think about it, that can give us a lot more clarity, a lot more power, a lot more energy, right? Where's all your energy going? Where's your energy at if you're stuck in this indecision mode? So, how are we all doing? I'm going to pause for a moment. Have you got any major questions to move beyond this point here? Let me just check. Great, okay, Q&A box is empty. Remember, if a question pops up throughout this conversation tonight, start typing it in there, because in my experience, a question pops up halfway through a webinar. By the end of the webinar, I've completely forgotten what my question was. Type it in there. It's like the little library. I can refer to it at the end and you won't lose that train of thought either. It'll be taken care of, right? And you can focus on the conversation. Great, I'm going to assume everyone is following, yeah? So one of the main, I guess, principles I want you to start to invite you to start to think about and to move beyond where you are at is that if you constantly are asking questions from your head, you're going to constantly get that headache. You're going to constantly get that drained feeling, that feeling. The answers that you're seeking specifically to this question of should I or shouldn't I quit my job tells me something. It tells me that you're craving a feeling. It tells me that you're craving to feel different to what you feel right now. It tells me that I don't want to feel stressed. I don't want to feel overwhelmed. I don't want to feel anxious. I don't want to feel always under pressure. What do you want to feel instead? I'm actually going to ask you that question right now. Pop it into the chat box. If you do not want to feel those things, how do you want to feel? Yeah. And I'm going to guess, as you're all typing away furiously there, I'm going to guess that how you want to feel is at least partly more energized, or to feel a little bit more fulfilled or happy or joyful, secure, at peace. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, I want to feel secure about my decisions. I really get that. Yeah. I want to feel like I can confidently make decisions and not get stuck in that toing and froing, because it's exhausting, right, Marcus? Yeah. So, excuse me. So the answer that you're craving to that question, the answer is going to give you that feeling that you're craving, right? What you're really craving is to get your spark back. You're craving to get your mojo back, right? And I'm going to tell you that that answer is not going to come from your head. That answer is going to be fueled from your heart. What do I mean by that? It's going to be fueled by a feeling, okay? I want you to start to lead your life and live your life from a feeling first, then bring the head in to join the party, absolutely. But for so long, I'm going to guess for decades, your head has been leading the show. So it's time to check in, because if you want to feel secure, if you want to feel at peace, then you have to get to know your heart a little bit. You got to get to know, well, what does that even feel like? Would I recognize it if it showed up? Yeah. So this is the framework that I want to invite you to step into tonight. And what I'm going to do now is share 3 simple steps that you can start to take to untangle this and get into here, so that you can start to feel how you want to feel. Because when you're in that state, you can move forward, you can get answers to this question. And when you get the answers comes the clarity, comes that feeling of security, comes that feeling of peace. Does that make sense? Let me get a couple of thumbs up or yeses, so I know that we're ready to dive into the 3 steps I'm going to share tonight, and then we're going to go into questions. Thank you. Great. I love the little thumbs up. They're so cute, the little outlines. Okay, amazing. So I'm going to share 3 steps now, and I'm going to share them pretty fast, because I really just want you to get a flavor for what the steps are. And I want to remind you that you can go and get that guide, the full guide to should I or shouldn't I quit my job. I've put it in the chat box again for you. It's a detailed PDF document. You can download it. You can sit with a journal. You can take half an hour. You can take 5 days on it. It's entirely up to you. Just know that it's all in there for you, these 3 steps and the actions that I recommend you take, okay? There are 3 steps. The first step is simply space, okay? The first step is simply space. What do I mean by that? Now, before you freak out, I know you are all very busy, highly stressed people. I'm going to tell you to create some space in your diary, and you're going to be like, no, I can't do it. I'm too busy, and I've got this, and don't you understand? I've also got the kids and my partner, and I've got to cook. And I understand. I just want you to hear this step. Honestly, this is the step I come to in everything I teach, in creating more joy, in breaking up with busy, in designing a life that you love. Like, everything has to start with space. In getting rid of migraines, it has to start with space. This is what happened for me as well. What tends to happen is with the PDB, the procrastination disguised as busyness, what's actually happening is we're trying to get back some sense of control. This questioning gets us like into a spin, and we feel overwhelmed. And so we're trying to claw back control. But what we end up doing is reaching for external things and like filling our world with things to get control back. Whereas actually, when you can create more spaciousness in your life, when you can actually create a little bit of pause, however that looks, and hold on for a minute, I promise I will tell you an easy way to do this. What it actually does is it allows you to kind of open up to more possibilities, okay? My favorite way to think about this is in the context of cycles, in the context of seasons. If you think about nature, nature has an inbuilt rest phase, right? Whether you think of this in the context of like harvesting and gardening, we plant seeds, then we step back and we rest. We wait for it before there's this big bloom and this big harvest. You can think of it in terms of the seasons. There is always a winter. We always need the winter, where it might not look like much is happening on the outside. Trees don't have leaves. Everything's very barren. Everything's very quiet. Animals go into hibernation, and yet so much is happening beneath the surface. Nature needs rest as much as we need rest. Now, if you're on this webinar, should I or shouldn't I quit my job? I want to acknowledge you for creating this space in your diary tonight. I know that that's a big deal for you, and I really want to acknowledge that. I also want to challenge you, because I'm going to challenge you to say that I have a feeling that you keep saying you'll create space to answer this question, but you haven't done it yet. Would I be onto something here? Is anyone willing to admit a sheepish yes to that? Yeah. I just want to say that's pretty natural, because you've been running this PDB strategy. So it's totally natural. You're human. You're passing the test, right? And what I want to invite you into in step one is anything that you can do in your life to create just moments of space. I'm a big believer in small, teeny weeny little moments. I have a story to share on this. So there's two stories actually. One, I'm going to share when I was at one of my most burnt out points in my life. This was the period that I hinted at the start, where I was getting migraines. I was super stressed at work. I was working on very high profile projects. We had short staff, digestive issues. I didn't really think it was all related at the time. I know it is now. And I had this opportunity to experience coaching firsthand. I was at a personal development weekend. There was a coach offering her time. She happened to also be a psychologist. So I just was really appealed to me that she was blending the modalities. And I sat down with her and I opened my mouth to speak, and just tears. Like I was like, and I didn't know what the release was. It was just like, oh, and she asked me this one simple question. She said, what is the one thing that will make the biggest difference in your life right now? What is the one thing? And all I could get out was, I need 2 weeks off work. I need 2 weeks of space. I need 2 weeks to do nothing. I'm going to guess that for anyone listening right now that is even experiencing a tiny bit of that pressure in your life right now, if I were to ask you that question, what's the one thing that would make the biggest difference? I'm going to imagine it hangs out in this territory. It hangs out here in that I want the relief. I want less pressure. I want space. I want to sit on the couch. Am I right? Or am I right? So this step is so important, and it's the one that I tell you and you go, yeah, I get it. But are you doing it? Okay. Second story I want to share. I went to this event, this is years ago now, and it was a networking event, and it was on a topic of like well-being and balance in your life. And there was this tea stand. I couldn't really understand. This tea business was there, and this guy was just serving free tea. I was like, okay, like really nice herbal teas. And then when we walked up, I watched him do this with everyone that would walk up, I would watch him and watch how he spoke to everyone. And he was telling them a little story, and he was telling them in 3 minutes the power of 3 minutes. And he was demonstrating exactly how you can, take the container of the beautiful herbal leaf tea, spoon it into the jug, wait for the kettle to boil, the way that he poured it, the way that he smelt it, the way that he poured the tea once it had brewed into his cup. Everything was part of it, like a ritual, a ceremony. And it took 3 minutes. 3 minutes. And I kept watching these people go up and him doing it. And I was feeling so calm just watching him. And I thought, wow, the power of a 3-minute ceremony in your life. Imagine how much space that could create in your body. Because really that spaciousness that you're craving is a feeling. Okay. How are we all doing on space? Yeah. You're feeling inspired to create a little bit more of it. And it can happen in small little ways, which brings me on to step 2. Step 2 is make it really easy. Okay. So if you're creating a little bit more space and you're getting real with yourself and saying, okay, I actually do need space, because if you don't have space, you're never going to get to the answers to that question. Okay. So how can I make it easy? Chances are you've been asking this question, should I or shouldn't I quit? And it's a big deal. It's like this huge, big, chunky chocolate cake, right? And you are trying to take the whole cake and shove it in your mouth all at once, which sounds pretty fun. It sounds doable, but it's really not. It's messy. It's hard to swallow everything all at once. I don't know why I chose chocolate cake, but there we go. That's the metaphor for tonight. We try and swallow too much at a time, and we try to make things really hard for ourselves because we think, okay, well, I need an answer. I need relief. And if it's not, quit today and get the new job tomorrow. And if it's not, have the perfect amount in my bank balance and then quit. well, I can't do it at all. There are studies that actually show that the level of success that we will have in any commitment that we make, any change that we want to create, any action that we want to take in changing our habits is far more successful when you take small, consistent steps. If you want to do 100 push-ups and you rock up on day 1 and you do 100 and you're like, woohoo, I'm amazing, high five. Then you rock up on day 2, you make it to 50. Day 3, you're a bit tired, so you don't bother. By day 4, you're feeling pretty shitty about yourself. And so you give up entirely. It actually erodes at your self-worth. Whereas if you rock up on day 1 and do 1 push-up, I'm not kidding, 1 push-up. Day 2, 1 push-up. Day 3, 1 push-up. Day 4, 1 push-up. Over time, what that literally does neurologically is creates a pathway in your brain that says, push-ups are cool, I can do push-ups. Like, it literally tells your body that this is safe for me to do. By day 30, you have created that wiring in your brain. So when you ramp it up to 5, to 10, to 50, to 100, you've already laid the foundation. So I promise you that making it easy is the successful strategy. Right now, you're making that question a big deal. How could you chunk it down? How could you make it so easy to take that next step, whatever that next step looks like, that you're laughing at yourself because it's so silly? Yeah. I'll share a very quick story and move on to step 3. I was in a session with my client recently, and we were talking about this, how she needed to essentially slow down. Like, I'm just going to sum it up to that. And we were talking about, okay, well, what are some things that you know that you need to do more of to kind of get you out of the stress state and like calm down? And she's like, oh, well, I could do this hour-long meditation that I've been thinking of doing, so I could do that. I was like, sounds too hard. No. And she's like, oh, okay, I could do like a 5-minute one. I'm like, sounds too hard. I'm like, what makes you feel good? She's like, oh, well, sometimes I take really deep breaths. I'm like, great, getting closer. Could you stop and take a deep breath? Yeah, okay. Well, how could you do that? Like, how are you going to remember to do that? And she's like, okay, well, if I'm feeling that stress, I will literally stop like moving and breathe in and breathe out. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's close. I reckon it could be easier. So do you get my point? Like, make it as easy as possible. Like, I just literally wanted her to be like, done, move on. How could you create the 1 push-up instead of the 100? Now, part of this step, which goes into more detail in the guide, is about removing all of the excuses that are going to come up and removing all of the story, because you're probably going to say, oh no, but like, I really do need to do that research. Oh no, but I really do need to get that extra education for the career. I'm like, yeah, but what's the easiest thing you can do? Because you're stuck on the question of should I or shouldn't I quit. The easiest thing you can do actually has to be about getting back into you first, like getting back into how you want to feel, getting clarity. Like, I think it was Marcus that shared earlier, like, I want to like be able to make those decisions, feel secure about those decisions, feel confident. Well, in order to do that, then you've got to practice decision making. It doesn't even have to be about should I or shouldn't I quit my job. That's the big chocolate cake for you right now. Where's the like, you know, a little lick of the icing, or where's like something else entirely that you can practice on making decisions for? Does that make sense? Chat's gone quiet. Let me check in. How's everyone doing? And remember, the Q&A box is open. We're going to be moving into questions in a couple of minutes. This is one of my favorite topics. I'm excited to hear what your questions are. Thanks, Nick. Yes. Okay, great. How are we all doing? Is dinner, are people prepping dinner? Gone a little bit quiet? Yay, I love that emoji. Thanks, Mel. Okay, awesome. Great. So I just want to recognize and acknowledge, I know this is different. Like, what I'm sharing tonight is a very different approach. And it's probably really not what you expected me to say at all. You were like, oh, well, look, I want to know if I should quit my job. I promise you that this system and these steps are what you need to get out of stuck mode. That wasn't working for you. Try something new. This is a process of training yourself to open yourself up to more possibilities. And the third step for doing that is really feeling good, right? So step 2 was, let me see if I can pop it in here. Step 2 was making it easy. And step 3 is feeling good. This is the best part, right? And the bit that we forget about, right? How many of you have been asking that question, should I or shouldn't I quit, from a place of like, oh, like restriction, or a little bit of like stress, or a little bit of like, oh my God, I don't know, and should I or shouldn't I? Give me a 1, like just pop in the chat box 1 if that's where you've been asking the question from. Like every time the question or something around that question pops up, you're like, it gets you into a bit of restriction. And give me a 2 if when you're asking that question from a place of, oh, I wonder if I could quit my job and what can I do next? And oh, what would feel really good to me? Tell me if you're a 2 as well. Okay. I want to get a feeling for this. I'm going to guess that there's going to be a lot more 1s than 2s as I'm waiting for the chat to, but keep filling it in. If it's a 2, that's awesome as well. And we're going to talk about that. So what tends to happen, particularly when we're stuck on any big question in our life, really, is we get really stuck in the restriction of it and we create more stress in our body. If you want to have clear decision making, if you want to feel secure, if you want to feel that sense of peacefulness, you have to get into that feeling first. If you want to make a decision about what job to have, well, don't you want to feel good about it? Yeah. I want you to imagine, so we've got a few more 1s and 2s. Great. That's what I expected. So I want you to imagine that you have this big decision you have to make. Like you can make it about, should I or shouldn't I quit my job? Or you could make it about like some other project that's going on, or like a decision about a relationship, or should I buy this house or not? You choose. And I want you to take a moment right now to imagine that you're having a super stressful day. Okay, you've woken up late, you read your email straight away, and all of the stuff happened overnight, and there's drama at work, and then you got a message from your mom, and then you tripped over the dog bowl, and like everything is just like, ugh. Now I want you to ask yourself that question, that decision, and try making the decision from that place. And see how you would approach it. Like just notice what you're imagining right now. Notice the feelings in your body. Okay. How are you approaching that question? Okay. Now I want you to clean the slate, wipe the slate. Now I want you to imagine that you're on a beautiful beach. You're on a beach holiday. Maybe you've already been on one. Maybe you live by a beach. I saw someone from Miami. Imagine that you're just sitting on the beach, you're on holidays or your favorite holiday location, and just imagine how good it feels to be there. You're super calm, you're relaxed. Always go to sunshine. I love sunshine, but if you're a snow kind of person, go to snow. And just imagine how you feel in your body and how good it is. And now I want you to ask yourself that question, that decision that you have, okay? And I want you to see how it changes when you ask yourself that question, should I or shouldn't I quit? What changes? What answers come up? So all you need to take away from that little experiment, not a problem at all, Alan, enjoy. Yes, you'll get a recording. Absolutely, you can go get the free guide. All I want you to notice is that it's different. Like if nothing else came up for you at all and you're like, what is she on about? I did it very quickly. Just notice that it is different. How we make decisions from a stress-based state and a restricted place and an overwhelmed state versus how we make decisions when we are in calm, equilibrium, peaceful, grounded are completely different. So my step 3 is always about feeling good. Why would you want to make a decision in your life when you are in that tense state? And actually there are lots of studies and research around this that says being in a feel-good state, choosing to be in a joyful state. I teach a lot around joy. When you're in a joyful state, actually, literally your body is healthier. It boosts your immunity. It literally clears your mind. So imagine if you could get yourself into that state more often, regardless of that big question that's hovering over here, if you could practice just like a muscle, practice feeling good in your life. And when you can get really good at it, and it's like you're working out those, the biceps or what have you, you start with that practice. You start with moments in your life of like, okay, well, what feels good right now? What does feel good? What would feel good? Like I was literally thinking today, okay, I was feeling a little bit tired in the afternoon. I wanted to do a little bit more prep for tonight. And I was like, what would feel really good to me right now? do I need to sit in front of the computer? Do I need to go for a walk? And what my body said was, go stand in the sun. And I went and I literally lay actually in the sun. We've got a tiny little balcony and I lay in the sun for an hour. And oh my God, I felt rejuvenated. Now I didn't sit in front of a computer and prepare. My brain was telling me, prepare, prepare, prepare. But my body was saying, go feel good in the sun. And oh my God, I feel energized and incredible right now talking to you. So this is a practice. The more that you can get into a feel good state, the easier that those big decisions become. So I literally want you to practice that as a step. Let me make sure I've covered all of this one. I know I'm jam-packing things and I want to leave tons of time for questions. Yeah. Okay, so I've covered most of what I wanted to say in step 3. Are there any questions on step 3? I raced through it. Okay, so I am conscious of time. So what I'm going to do is I am going to pause there for a moment. And I'm going to come on over to the Q&A box, because I would love to see what questions have been coming up. In the meantime, please feel free to keep the conversation going on the chat screen, but come and put your questions in, because you have got access to me right now. I'm happy to answer anything, definitely on this topic, but others as well if you want. So let me have a look. Okay, Emily asks, what about fear of change? For example, could the new job end up worse? Thank you so much for asking this question, Emily. It's a great one, and I imagine many people have that same question. So the fear of change. I touched on in step 1 this point around us wanting to seek control. Seeking control is really a fear-based response as well. So if you're afraid of change, what that tells me is that there's a little bit of fear around uncertainty. So uncertainty is kind of like the cousin or the partner to certainty, which is control, right? So it's like, I'm feeling really out of control. I want more certainty. Yeah. And if I don't know what the change is going to be like, then that's creating a lot more uncertainty in my life. So what do I do about it? How do I get it back? Right. So I'm going to encourage you on that one. If you're worried about the fear of change, go back to step 1. Step 1 is about creating that space. I'm going to guess, if you're worried about the fear of change, when that question comes up, like, what if the new job could be worse? What if I don't like it? Like all of that questioning, I'm going to guess what's happening in your body is a stress-based response, which means you ask the question and your body goes, and naturally we don't want to feel, right? The brain is trying to protect us. Feels scary. So we're going to go to a safer response. So your behavior when that question comes up is likely some sort of freeze or flight mode. And what I mean by that is you're likely turning to something else. It's going back to the PDB, procrastination disguised as busyness. You're probably like, oh, I'll go and do something else, or I'll go watch a movie. I'll do something that's going to help me numb or not feel that feeling. So I know it feels uncomfortable and I really want to acknowledge it. And I also want to say it's a perfectly natural feeling. If you're afraid of the change and you're like, what if the job could end up worse? I'm going to take you back to step 1 and say, have some spaciousness first to just sit with that feeling. I promise you, emotions in the body, they last 90 seconds. Can you do it for 90 seconds? Can you feel a little bit of that fear for 90 seconds? That's my invitation for you tonight, is literally go away and just sit with that question. See what it does with your body when it comes up. 90 seconds and then let it go. And I'm going to tell you that when you practice that spaciousness and that moment of like rest, it allows your body to recover as well from the fear. Yeah. There's a lot more on fear that I can touch in on, but I hope that that's been helpful. I see a little thumbs up. Great. Okay, great. Next question. Is it okay? Oh, no, sorry. I'll go back to the top. I feel like I'm not being grateful to still have a job when so many people have lost theirs during this pandemic. Yes, I really get that. Thank you for sharing that. I'm guessing your question is like, is it okay to feel like this? Or like, how do I move beyond this? And this is really going back to what I shared before, the 3 steps, which is that it's the questioning. This is part of your questioning process that's getting you stuck, right? And what I talk about it almost as being, and this is where step 2 comes in handy, which is making it easy, is removing some of the stories that we come up with. This is almost, I get it, like it's coming from a generous place, and also it's an excuse. If I'm just going to cut straight through and give you the hard truth right now, worrying about that is in some ways it's an excuse. It's your body's response to protecting you and going, no, no, hold on to this thing, hold on to this control, hold on to this certainty. So what I would, like, maybe that's true. Like, I don't know, maybe you should be grateful. I don't know what your situation is, but what I would encourage you to do is moving through these 3 steps actually is going to help you to train yourself to get a little bit comfortable with, like, oh, well, what if it was okay for me to change? Like, is that I can still be grateful for what I have now and get something else as well. Does that help? I don't know who that was from. That was an anonymous one. So next question, is it okay to quit before finding a new job? I don't know. You tell me, is it okay? What does that feel like when you ask yourself that question? Okay, I'm going to guess, going back to step 1, that maybe you ask yourself this question and you get a little bit scared and you get a little bit like, oh, and you get tense, and then we go back to PDB. We go back to procrastination disguised as busyness or research or what have you, because it's the fear-based response and it's really natural. What step 1 is training you to do is literally bring your body back into equilibrium. And it is a nervous system based response, and pretty natural, right? That's how our brain is wired. But is it okay to quit before finding a new job? It's a very personal question, and it really has to come from you once you've taken yourself through the 3 steps. Have you given yourself space to sit with that? Have you given yourself space to actually just like feel a little bit uncertain and uncomfortable? Have you given yourself space to like think about what the incredibly teeny tiny small step could be towards that, like the tiny weeny little nibble of the cake? Make it so easy, like the next step, that you like are laughing at yourself, this is silly. And have you sat with the feeling? Have you like both sides of the feeling? Have you sat with it like, okay, well, how would that feel to do it that way? Or how would it feel to have a bridge job? Or how would it feel to, you know, wait? When you practice, like, this is why I say the steps are so important before the answers. Does that make sense? Like, these steps will get you to the answers. It almost, like, this question will almost take care of itself once you do the steps. Because the old process, the old system that you were stuck in is questions, 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 getting stuck in a loop. These steps are creating a new strategy for you. When you follow these steps, you will naturally notice yourself suddenly thinking in a new way, or your body will be more relaxed, and so you'll have more clarity. Or with this particular question, is it okay to quit before finding a new job? You'll ask yourself that question and suddenly you will actually notice the feeling response because you've given yourself space. Yeah. Next question. How can I feel good if I have a very good job, but I feel bad that I no longer enjoy it? Oh my goodness, I feel you. That was me. That was me. So I had a brilliant job. I had worked really hard at university to get the job. I had a great salary. I'd been promoted very quickly early on in my career. And it was something I was passionate about too. So it was really weird for me that I felt bad that I didn't enjoy it anymore. Like, I would have all these conversations and team meetings and feel like I was pretending. And then I'd walk away and be like, why am I being so ungrateful? Like, what? I don't know. Like, I just felt like I yearned for something else. So how can you feel good right now? This is what step 3 is all about. What I'm telling you about is actually, maybe for you, the practice has nothing to do with the job at all. Okay, so go back to what I said earlier, which is I really want to get you into a state practicing these steps where you're going to be happy and joyful and peaceful regardless of the job you're in. I want that for you. And this is what the steps are designed to train you, to build that system up in your life. So my assignment for you, or my invitation for you, would be to actually practice feeling good in all other ways in your life. And actually, if you need some inspiration, I've got a list on my website called 99 Ways to Feel Good. You can just head straight to my website. I think there's a pop-up that comes up for it. It's easy to find, which was my way of saying, well, this is things that I've identified in my life, like from small to big. It's about creating that level of awareness in yourself. Without the awareness of what feels good, it's going to be really hard to gravitate towards maybe a new job that feels good, or to even notice the things in your current job that actually do feel really good. It's just that you've got your blinkers on, or that you're focusing on the bad things. So I would treat it as a muscle and go and practice feeling good in other areas of your life as well, and start small. Yeah. Next question. I'm afraid because I feel like quitting my job looks bad on my CV since I've been here less than a year. Cool. And how do you feel about that, Eugenio? So have you sat with that? Have you questioned yourself? I think this falls into step 2, which is about making it easy. I think you're trying to make it too hard on yourself. Like, looks bad on CV sounds like a big, huge piece of chocolate cake. Like, what's a teeny weeny bite of that kind of issue? And I would say, what's the story that you're telling yourself here? What are some of the other possibilities that you might not be seeing? So if you're only looking at looks bad on my CV, practice something else. Like, practice going, well, how could it look good? Or what is the story I'm telling myself here? And literally write it out as if you're writing a story, and then see if you could come up with a new script. Yeah. Anytime I hear something like, I'm afraid of this, I come back to that fear-based response, and it's really us trying to claw back for certainty or uncertainty, like getting back some control. And I would also take you back to step 1 to practice. Spaciousness is very much about practicing sitting with nothing. And like, I made that sound too simple. Like just practicing your own personal winter, whether it's in a day, in a minute, in a week, is just like, how can I just sit here and feel that thing? Like, when I feel uncomfortable about the CV, let me sit a little bit longer and a little bit longer and a little bit longer, and just see and notice what comes out. Hope that was helpful, Eugenio. I am racing because I really want to make sure I cover all the questions. So apologies if I'm talking super, super fast. Remember, you have a recording, so you can listen to me on replay. What would be the little steps in changing the job? Starting to look for something else, or rather getting some training in another direction? So on this question, I would say, like, I really get it. And what I would do is I'd take you right back to the start of the webinar, which those types of questions are keeping you stuck in questioning mode. I'm going to encourage you for a moment. It's almost like we're tying those questions in a nice, neat bow and saying, we'll come back to you, beautiful questions. We promise we will get you some answers. And we're going to leave them there, for a little while, and we're going to come over here to the steps. And what I would encourage you to say is, come back. And once again, I'm going to ask you, have you stepped back? Okay. If you say, what would be the little steps in changing the job? To me, that's like, okay, I'm planting a seed. Now let me step back. Like, no farmer plants a seed and then like the next day digs around and looks for it and is it growing? Is it growing? Okay, patch the soil back up. Like, have you stepped back? And I can't tell you what stepping back looks like for you in your life. Literally, that could look like something like journaling or meditation, or literally just saying to yourself, okay, I'm going to give myself a day off of questions. I'm just, no questions today. Anytime the question pops up, nope, not answering it today, whatever it looks like for you. But I really want to encourage you with this one is like, what are the little steps in changing your job? Has to start with just let go of the question for a little while. Just sit in that spaciousness. I know what you're looking for is for me to tell you the little steps, like for me to say like, oh, well, one thing could be, having a chat with a colleague. One thing could be, I don't know, like looking up things that you really like, but that takes you back into research mode. And I know that the research mode is really a version of busyness. So I really want you to encourage you to like listen to this webinar again, go and download the free guide. Pam's just put it into the chat box there. It'll take you through some questions that you can sit with in that step 1, which is space. Just answer the questions. What does this look like? How can I implement this in my life? When you implement the steps in your life, the answers, I promise you, will just start coming. You will be looking through different colored glasses. Yeah. Okay, next question. Any suggestions? Now I know we're spot on time. So for everyone, I promise I will finish the questions. If you can hang out with me, please do. If you need to go and eat dinner, I completely understand as well. No hard feelings. Okay, it will be recorded. Any suggestions on how to get out of PDR? So procrastination disguised as research. I love that you've asked this question. It is a great question. Honestly, the very first step of that is awareness. Notice when you're doing it and call yourself out on it. Like, if you could just practice that for the next 7 days, like set yourself an assignment and just be like, okay, I'm doing a little challenge for the next 7 days. Anytime you notice yourself and you're like, oh, I think this is that thing, that PDR thing, that PDB thing. Yep. Oh, nope, this is definitely that. Just call yourself out on it. The very simple process of bringing awareness to it means that you're creating a change. What you will start to notice over time is every time you call yourself out, what it does is it short circuits the strategy. It short circuits that loop that you're in. And at the very least, it gets you going, oh, what else could I do instead? So the first step would be spend some time on awareness, and then you can move into what could I do instead? And it could be a question you ask yourself, like, oh, what could I do instead? It could be like you set yourself a little action. You say, anytime I notice it, I'm going to, I don't know, sit down and write something, or go have a cup of tea, or like, it literally could be anything. Yeah. Mariano, okay. What about quitting a job or being fired, and you have to think, what are you going to do after that? Moreover, in not developing countries where to find another job is not easy in normal times, moreover during pandemic times. Okay. Mariano, I think what you're asking me is like, how do you think about, maybe I need some clarification on this question. I think what you're saying is like, what about quitting a job when actually there's some really difficult circumstances and like there's a lot of uncertainty? Is that right? So what I would say with this is like, once again, I want to bring you back to the process. Okay. I'm imagining that, like, yeah, if you need another job, or you're quitting, or you've been fired, and you have to think like, what am I going to do next? But there's all of this uncertainty, or I'm not in a great area, or what have you. What you're faced with is a lot of uncertainty. So a lot of things feel like they are out of your control. I'm going to guess that feeling of being out of control is very much externally focused. So what I mean by that is, it's likely you're thinking of like, you're likely trying to get back control from things like, like organizations outside of you, or, the country that you live in, or like whether or not this place has an opportunity or not, right? All of those things are external. So what I would invite you to do is, very first of all, which is what these steps are actually doing. All of these steps have been designed to switch the spotlight from external to internal. Like, if that is the simplest thing, that is probably the simplest thing I could say to explain the whole strategy tonight, which is, you are feeling out of control. You are focused outside of you to get back control. And the only thing we can control is us. So how can you turn that spotlight back on you? So as frustrating as it might be in your environment right now, Mariano, what I would ask for you to do is like, keep switching the spotlight, keep saying, okay, cool. Now what part of this can I control? I can control my feelings. I can control my reactions. I can control how much space I'm giving myself, how easy I'm making it for myself. I can control practicing feeling good. And yes, you can practice feeling good even when shitty stuff is going on around you. Even more so, the practice of feeling good becomes vital, because we need that like support system for our nervous system and for ourselves. I really hope that was helpful, Mariano. And we've got another question. Okay, this will be the last question tonight. And I just want to say thank you so much. I'm loving these questions. How do I best know what I really want? Okay, this beautiful question from Anonymous. Step 3 is all for you. Okay, go back to step 3. How do I know best what I really want? You got to practice feeling good. You have to practice, you have to know what it feels like to feel good in your body before you can go and ask, what's the external fix for that? So if you don't know what you really want, the chances are you're probably not so familiar with the things, and like consciously, subconsciously you are, but consciously you're probably not really aware of all of the things that you really want right now, that already feel good to you. Go back to the example of me choosing to, lie down in the sun for an hour today, because I know from previous experience and a lot of self-inquiry that when I do that, it gives me energy. I feel alive, right? So if I were to ask myself, what do I really want right now? It's like, okay, I want sunshine. I know that you're asking this in the context of like career and job and, big changes in your life, but honestly, this, you know, the stuff that I'm talking about, it sounds small, but it's, you start practicing with the small stuff and the big stuff gets taken care of. Like when it's the same stuff, it's just micro and macro versions of it. So my suggestion to you is to practice feeling good first and identify the, like literally, what does feeling good feel like in my body? Start to notice it on a daily basis, then start to choose things that make you feel good so that that actually becomes a habit. So that then when you ask the question, what do I really want? You can tune in a little bit more to like, oh, that feels good. No, that doesn't feel good. Oh, that feels good. That doesn't feel good. Does that make sense? Yeah. I mean, I have so much more to say on that. That is the depth and core of what I teach, is about like, how do you really know what you really, really want? And then you can go and get it and live this sustainable system in your life where you are creating a lot of, you know, those feel goods more often. So everyone, thank you so much for hanging out a little bit later. I really appreciate it. And I have loved the conversation and sharing tonight. As I said before, you're getting access to this recording. Pam's put the link in. I'm going to put the link in again as well. Please go get the guide. I did have a slide if you want to connect. I am available. Instagram's my favorite place to hang out, but feel free to email me as well if you have any follow-up questions. I'm more than happy to answer them. And whatever you do tonight with the rest of your evening, may it be a really joyful one. Thank you so much. Bye.